What's up, you guys? I don't mean to get on here and be like completely fucking weird with the lights off, with a candle burning, but this is about the message. It's not about how I'm looking or what I'm doing. Like, I just been really pushed by spirit to come on here and talk about the power of vulnerability. And let me see if I can get some more light for you guys. The power of vulnerability. The word that this society fears the most. Vulnerability. Because we equate vulnerability with weakness, and spirit has really shown me that all of the things that I've been through on a spiritual level, all it did was strip me naked. And that is how I found myself. That is how I found my purpose. That is how I found God. I had to be stripped of everything that I thought I knew, everything that I thought I needed, every person that I thought was going to be there. I had to be stripped of all of those things for God to show me that you're using all of your surroundings to define you, whether that's a person, place, or a thing. Now, what happens when I strip you of all these things that you let define you? I keep seeing like a woman emerging and literally stripping her skin, like the old skin is falling off of her as she's being like literally reborn. And this rebirth is simply being in touch with the spirit, the soul. That's what my spiritual journey was all about, is getting vulnerable, because you can't go to spirit with ego. They look at that like it's those vulnerable moments where you break down behind closed doors on bending knees, begging the Lord to help you, because you just don't know what to do. You don't know what's going on. You have no one to turn to. You don't know true vulnerability until you have broken down. I'm talking, you just don't even know what came over you, but you fell to your knees, forehead touching the bare ground, tears streaming down your face, and just begging God to help you. And the thing is that you don't even know what you're really asking for help from. Like, being in this state of vulnerability, you don't even know why you feel so naked. And that's the thing. We mistaken this vulnerability for being anxious, depressed, or whatever other terms we come up with to define true vulnerability. We live in a world that has forced you to put on this armor to walk through this world, and spirit is breaking it down. That's what's going on here. Spirit is shifting the world from this hard ass to what we were meant to be, which is vulnerable, which is soft, which is broken. What we define as broken. But think about the thorn of the flesh. We were all made with a thorn of the flesh. Whether you want to say that yours is addiction, anxiety, whatever it is, but the thorn of the flesh is whatever it is that draws you near to the Lord. That's whatever takes your power, in a sense. It makes you feel weak. It makes you feel burdened, so that you will go to the Lord and let him help you. We are supposed to feel soft. We're supposed to feel what feels like broken to us is actually strength, because that's where you find God. That's where you find the Lord. That's where you find that source, that power. But we've been walking around with this armor that I like to call ego. This armor that we call ego. We've been walking around with the strength of ego rather than the strength of the Lord. And that's why it's all being broken down. That's why everything that you thought you were has been stripped from you. We are born naked for a reason. Literally, as you are is as you are meant to be. And that is what is going on collectively right now. We are being broken down to our most vulnerable and naked state to show that we are nothing without the source. And if you try to be something without the source, that's when anxiety, depression, addictions, health in general, because it's usually health that we always want to run to God about. That's when those things take over and you're like, oh my gosh, what is my last resort? What is always a last resort? Everyone always says their last resort was going to the Lord. He's breaking us down to our most bare state so that we will finally come to him. That's why some people don't have jobs. That's why some people are losing their homes. That's why some people are losing their cars. He's doing whatever it is that he has to do for you to get the message that you cannot live this life without God. And when you try, that's when that armor becomes heavy. It becomes burdensome. And you don't want to live anymore. Simply because you're trying to use your strength to live this life on your own. You were never meant to be that. You are weak. We are built weak on purpose because there is strength that is found in weakness, and that strength is of the Lord, of Source, the one true creator. I've realized that in my most vulnerable states where I've been feeling like, God, I can't go on any longer. Like I'm crying. I'm literally like gasping for air because I'm crying so hard. God, I can't go on any longer. But then somehow every single time I get up, that is strength. You find your deepest strength in your most vulnerable states. We were taught to believe that strength is found in your toughest moments, the moments where you act the hardest. When in reality, that is when you are at your weakest. That's your last line of defense. We have been put in this position in the world. I always talk about when in Rome, do as the Romans do. That should not be the case. That's why we've all been forced to put on this armor of ego, because of the people that we have been surrounded by with their free will, and they're not using it properly. They're not using it morally. And so then their immoralities traumatize your pure soul. And your pure soul doesn't know how to function with that. So then you put on your ego. And then you go and mess with the next man whose pure soul can't handle that immorality. So then they have to put on their ego. And then that man goes to the next man and puts his immorality on this person, traumatizes this person, so they have to put on their ego. 2020 is removing your shell. Look, this is going to expose how childish I am. You know that episode of SpongeBob where Mr. Krabs lost his shell and he was hiding from the world? That is what is going on as a collective right now. If you give in to spirit, if you are vulnerable, then that is what is occurring. But if you are still stuck, if you are still clothed in ego, you can't feel it. You won't feel it because, again, spirit doesn't respond to holier than thou, like above all. They don't respond to that because that is impure. Spirit responds to purity, and purity is vulnerability. It is in your most vulnerable state that you are your truest self. You are not worried about who has to say what. You are simply worried about being happy, being yourself. And that is simply found in nakedness. When you no longer care what those that are clothed in ego have to say, that is true strength. Even though their immorality, their ego will hurt your soul. It will hurt your pure little soul because it's vulnerable. Think about it. Mr. Krabs, when he was in his naked state, he didn't want to be seen. He did not want to be seen. He went through everything that he could to not be seen. And I'm realizing that that is what my hermit mode was. I was hiding because I was so vulnerable. I was so vulnerable that even though I knew that there was nobody in the room, my ego was embarrassed to break down. But that's what life is about. Breaking down. Realizing that you are nothing without source. And some people don't like to hear that. They want to feel like, oh, I'm everything. No, baby, that's your ego talking. You are nothing without source. Without the creator. The one true creator that made all this happen. And until you acknowledge that, you will forever be clothed in ego trying to protect yourself from others' immoralities. But when you are so comfortable naked, you don't care about what people have to say about your naked body because you know everything about your naked body. You are sitting in your truth. So whatever they say cannot get to you because you know your truth. You've been broken down, so barren to know your personal truths in connection to the one true creator. So no outside source can ever force you to put on that ego again. We are getting into a state where God is breaking down egos. He is removing that egoic armor, that shell. Because this world that we have created through our free will, with our immoral ass ways of traumatizing each other, that's not how this was supposed to go. We are all supposed to be naked, barren, living our truths, and being vulnerable in that, being happy in that. Because that's the only way to truly connect with God. That's the only way. You cannot connect to God in ego, in this defensive state. You have to be receptive. You cannot be defensive. That's what it is. You have to take your walls down in order to be saved, in order to be found again. We've been so traumatized by others' immoral use of free will that we have let it change us. So we put on masks. We put on this armor. We put up facades so that nobody can ever see us break again. I have never cried more in my entire life than I have in 2020. And you know what? I realize that this world will try to convince you that that means that you're depressed. No, baby. That means that you are in touch with the Lord. Because you know that with every tear comes healing. Because it all passes. This too shall pass. But if you don't release what you want to pass by crying about it, or just being vulnerable about it, you're just going to hold on to it. And that's just more layers of the ego. More layers of the ego. Some people's ego layer is this fucking thick. Imagine trying to break that, strip that layer by layer. 50 fucking years of traumas that you have not released. And you're still trying to fight vulnerability. All in all, this video is simply to tell you that there is strength in vulnerability. The most powerful strength in vulnerability. There is power in vulnerability. You don't know how strong you are until you've broken down so low that you just want to give up. But somehow you get up every time. And again, this world will make you think that, oh, if you stoop that low, that means that you're depressed. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck all those labels. Do what you have to do to strip down, to be vulnerable again. Fuck labels. If that makes you depressed because you want to cry about your problems, then so be it. So be it. But that's your way of getting through this life with the Lord. It's time. It's time for a change. I know that we all see it. It's time for a change. And the change starts within. It starts with you. Because again, it's that domino effect. If you put on your armor of ego and go out into the world and use your free will immorally, you're forcing other people to put on their armor of ego. It's time to strip the armor of ego away. And the only way to do that is to strip your own so that you can show other people that it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to be naked. Because that's how we were born. That's how we are meant to be. Some people may call it weak, but like I said, there is strength in your weakest, lowest points. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this helps someone, anyone. Thank you so much for your love and support. I'll see you guys in my next video.